Every morning at 6, the same phone call arrived at the Nishimoto household. "Mr. Nishimoto, Lala is at the train station again." Because somewhere in Kagoshima, Japan, a penguin had decided she had errands to run. It began the way most extraordinary stories do, with an accident nobody planned for. A fisherman casting his nets into the salt water off Kagoshima Prefecture pulled up something that had absolutely no business being there. Tangled in the mesh, injured and exhausted, was a king penguin. A king penguin in southern Japan. In warm coastal waters that were about as far from the freezing sub-Antarctic as you could possibly get, the Nishimoto family took her in. They nursed her wounds. They fed her fish from their refrigerator. They watched as day by day, this strange and regal bird grew stronger inside their home. And when she was finally healthy, they did the responsible thing. They took her back to the sea and tried to release her. Lala looked at the ocean. Then she turned around and waddled back to the house. They tried again. She refused again. With the full, unblinking dignity that only a penguin can project, Lala made her position absolutely clear. She was not going back. She had assessed her options. She had made her choice, and her choice was the Nishimoto refrigerator. The family was at a loss. Japan's summers are punishing thick with heat and suffocating humidity. This was no environment for a king penguin. The logical outcome here was obvious. The bird should go back to the sea. And yet Lala would not budge. She stood at the front door. She stood in front of the refrigerator. She looked at the family with those calm, steady eyes, and she waited. So they built her a room, a special climate-controlled space just outside the main house, designed to keep her comfortable through the brutal summer months. And Lala, satisfied with the arrangement, settled in as though she had lived there her entire life, which, in every way that mattered, she now had. You have to picture the street to truly feel what happened next. A quiet neighborhood in Kagoshima, close-knit houses, familiar faces, shopkeepers who have known the same families for decades. And then, one morning, a gate opens, and out steps a king penguin wearing a small backpack embroidered with the face of the cartoon character Pingu, and she begins walking, purposefully, alone, down the road toward the fish shop 400 meters away. The neighbors did not panic. They did not call animal control. They grabbed their garden hoses and splashed her with cool water as she passed, because it was warm, and Lala appreciated the gesture. She waddled on without breaking stride, acknowledging the kindness the way a seasoned commuter acknowledges a familiar face on the platform, briefly, warmly, then forward. At the fish shop, the routine was precise. Lala would arrive. The shopkeeper would reach into the backpack, remove the wallet, complete the transaction, and hand over the fish. Sardines and tuna were her preferences, the shopkeeper noted, and sometimes she would slip Lala an extra fish as a reward. Then Lala would turn around, accept another splash of cool water from the neighbors on the way home, and return to the Nishimoto house, as though she had simply done what needed doing. Because as far as Lala was concerned, she had. The Nishimoto family had 2 daughters. They grew up alongside this penguin, sharing their home, their refrigerator, their daily rhythms with a bird who had simply refused to leave. Lala was not a pet in any conventional sense. She was not kept in a cage or behind glass. She was, in the fullest meaning of the word, a member of the family. She unlocked windows with her beak when she wanted to go out. She wandered to the local train station on her own whims. She performed tricks. She offered treats to visitors. Kindergartens and daycare centers began routing their field trips past the Nishimoto house. Young children would gather outside, wide-eyed and delighted, as Lala emerged to greet them. And with each visit, she grew more comfortable around people, more assured, more social, more undeniably herself. The older of the 2 Nishimoto daughters, Tadai, would later say that she dreamed of one day naming her own child Lala. Footage of Lala began to spread, first through Japanese variety television, then outward, across oceans, into living rooms and newspapers in countries where nobody had ever heard of Kagoshima. And what people saw when they watched this footage, what made them stop, lean toward their screens, and feel something shift in their chests, was not simply a penguin doing tricks. It was a penguin living a life, walking to the shop, paying for fish, wearing a backpack, navigating a neighborhood. Lala moved through her daily routine with such calm self-possession, such quiet competence, that viewers around the world found themselves doing a double take. Because she did not look like an animal performing for humans. She looked like a very small, very dignified person who happened to have flippers going about her morning the same way everyone else went about theirs. The The comments that poured in from overseas said it plainly. She was smart. She was soothing. She was living an unusual life for a penguin, yes, but she was thriving in it. She had chosen it, after all. She had looked at the ocean and chosen this instead. And watching her, people understood something quietly profound. That belonging is not always about where you come from. Sometimes it is about where you decide to stay. Japanese television put it simply. When they featured her, they called her the errand penguin, the genius penguin, the bird who ran errands. And a nation nodded and said yes. That sounds exactly right. Lala lived with the Nishimoto family for 13 years. During her molting season each year, she would move inside the main house for an entire month, eating nothing as king penguins do, and the family would simply adjust their lives around her, as they always had. Outside of molt, she held her post in front of the refrigerator. She unlocked windows. She wandered to the station. She wore her backpack to the fish shop. She accepted water from the neighbors on warm days and offered the quiet, steady companionship that had made her irreplaceable. In 1996, Lala passed away from pneumonia. She was 13 years old. The Nishimoto family kept her room exactly as it was, and the street she walked, the same 400 meters she had trotted down hundreds of times with that little Pingu backpack bouncing on her back, was named in her honor. It is called Lala Street. It carries her name today, 30 years later, because some presences are too large to simply disappear when a life ends. Some beings leave a mark on a place so deep that the place itself remembers them. Lala, the errand penguin, came from the sea, refused to go back, and built herself a life so full of warmth and personality and quiet wonder that an entire country fell in love with her. She was not trained to run errands. She was not coaxed or conditioned. She simply watched how life worked in the Nishimoto household, decided she understood it, and participated on her own terms, at her own pace, in her own small backpack. The older Nishimoto daughter still hopes to name a child after her. The fish shop still remembers her favorites, sardines and tuna. And somewhere on a quiet street in Kagoshima, the neighbors still tell the story of the mornings they stood at their gates with garden hoses, cooling down a penguin on her way to run the family errands as if that were the most natural thing in the world. Because for a few beautiful years, it was. Thank you for watching until the end. If Lala's story moved you, leave a comment below. And if you'd like more stories like this one, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. We'll see you in the next one.